And on the wrap tonight, Arkansas follows Indiana and drafts their own religious freedom law. But Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson is pushing back. And is it time to stop negotiating with Iran? One prominent Democrat says yes. Hillary Clinton's poll numbers are taking some big drops in key presidential states, battleground ones. Will this make the former First Lady rethink running for president? Okay, so it is April Fool's Day. We'll discuss all of that and more in riveting fashion. This is the Daily Wrap. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha with the man who's the real-life version of the most interesting man in the world from the Dos Equis commercial.
You finally said something that was true.
That is true.
True, yes.
Finally. Yes, that's me. Yeah.
Good for you, Rick.
I don't often drink beer, but go ahead.
When you do, he enjoys Dos Equis. And we're also joined by Heather Hansen and Lisa Jandovitz. They're actually the real-life inspiration for Laverne and Shirley.
Absolutely we are.
The question is, who is Laverne and who's Shirley?
I have to have the L, so.
There you go. I have to be Shirley. Oh,
Lisa's
boy,
Laverne,
she's the
makes
lame
sense.
one.
Enough, let's go to the Daily Download. Well, this week we've seen some major backlash over Indiana's religious freedom bill, to the point that Governor Mike Pence has decided additional language was needed in order to prove to pretty much the whole country that Indiana does not discriminate based on sexual orientation. Well, today, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, obviously seeing the reaction that Pence had to deal with, made this announcement about his state's religious freedom bill.
The bill that is on my desk at the present time does not precisely mirror the federal law. Therefore, I ask that changes be made in the legislation. And I've asked that the leaders of the General Assembly to recall the bill so that it can be amended to reflect the terms of the Federal Religious Freedom and Restoration Act.
So Hutchinson taking a cue from Pence, saying he has a responsibility to protect religious freedom, but also fight against discrimination. Yep, it's tightrope time.
My responsibility is to speak out on my own convictions and to do what I can as governor to make sure this bill reflects the values of the people of Arkansas, protects those of religious conscience, but also minimizes the chance of discrimination in the workplace and in the public environment.
So Lisa, you're heavily involved with the Catholic Church and even close encounter with Monsignor Jim Lasante. What's the reaction you think going to be from social conservatives, religious conservatives, when they see governors capitulate this quickly?
Well, there's obviously going to be some of an outcry, because they're, particularly evangelicals, are going to say that this is, they're being discriminated against and not able to consciously object according to their beliefs, according to their faith. And that's what makes this like a really tricky situation, because again, and we saw Governor Hutchinson say this, no one wants to discriminate against gays and lesbians or because of sexual orientation, and yet there would be discrimination against people's own personal beliefs if they were being punished. As Senator Rubio said, should these people be punished if they are saying that they don't want to, whether it's a florist or a baker, actually be part of a gay ceremony and providing services? Should there be punishment? You know, when we kind of saw something like this with the Catholic Church and with the whole Health and Human Services mandate with birth control, should they be forced, Catholic organizations, and it was found out that they should not be, to provide birth control when it goes against the religious beliefs?
Heather?
It may be that the courts will ultimately decide some of these. In other states, actions have been taken against florists and so forth, and it's now moving up the channels in the courts. But you know, this is a difficult issue for everybody. There was a poll in February where they asked whether wedding-related services should be forced to provide services against their religious convictions to same-sex marriages. 57% said no.
Oh, okay.
And that's an AP poll. So 57% said no. In 2014, there was a Gallup poll asking about same-sex marriage, 55% said that they felt gay marriage should be valid. So they are different issues, and it's not just politicians who are confused and wondering where they stand. I think Americans, according to those polls, are confused and wondering where they stand, and it's something that we all have to work out together, and I think it has to be in a case-by-case basis, and not as a rule, this is the rule, but how strong is your conviction? How well-founded is it? How discriminatory is your action? And do it case by
Right.
case.
Rick, Heather just said there's a difficult issue for everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's a difficult issue for Republicans because they don't seem to have a cohesive message on how they're going to handle this. They're getting beat up in the media, clearly. Washington Post front page today says this drags Republicans into a culture war they don't want to necessarily
That's right.
fight because they lose on those issues with millennials and so
Right.
on. So
Well, that's just it. I mean, the politics of it and the reality of it are two very different things. What both of these ladies have said is absolutely correct. It is anybody who's really thinking this through understands there's two very solid sides to this argument. But for politicians, it's a different test. And you're right, when you consider what the millennials are going to believe about this, and even beyond that, because you're seeing even people my age having this difficulty, because it's a very, very difficult situation. You don't want discrimination. The question now, though, is going to be how is this solved? And there's two ways. Indiana can remove Section 7 that takes it beyond just the government and brings it down to the private industry situation. They probably did the same in Arkansas. They can take that out, or they can add protection for members of the LGBT and transgender sex.
Well, let's talk more about the political aspect of this. Hillary Clinton certainly capitalizing on these bills. The former First Lady and Secretary of State and Senator took to Twitter saying, sad this new Indiana law can happen in America today. We shouldn't discriminate against people because of who they love, hashtag LGBT. And quote, like in law, Arkansas bill goes beyond protecting religion, would permit unfair discrimination against LGBT Americans. I urge Governor to veto, end quote. So it looks like the left are in the driver's seat here. Pollster John Zogby told Newsmax today the GOP does not make inroads with millennials, as I just mentioned, particularly on the subject of LGBT rights. The party is, and I quote, cruising for a bruising in 2016, according to Mr. Zogby. By the way, you know how you don't connect with millennials? By using sayings from the 50s like cruising for a bruising, correctamundo.
The Vernon Shirley might say it, but that's about the
But
extent
not
of
the
it.
millennials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well, yeah, Hillary's got it easy on this issue.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's
yes,
not
she
hard
speaks
for
out
her
on
to
this
take that
issue.
position.
But the timing
she's very talkative all of a
Right.
sudden. It's remarkable.
It gives Republicans
Quickly.
time to get it together, though.
Yes, exactly. We're 22 months from an election, and for the Republicans that sat out and didn't comment at
But they
all,
won't.
John Kasich, good job. Anyways, it's time to walk away from a deal with Iran. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax.